Hi, welcome to the Daily Breath. I'm Heather Holloway and I'm a breathwork practitioner. Today I'd like to talk to you about choice making around what we read and listen to. There's a lot of information today that we need to take in and understand so that we can be safe and healthy. There's a lot of information that we don't need because we have no control over it, and what it does is pulls our emotions in directions that we may not want them to go. So today I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can balance out emotions that are related to headlines and news stories that you might be hearing. I'm going to start with a publication called The Week, and the reason I'm using this publication is because it happened to be on our kitchen counter. I'm going to read you two headlines that are right here on the cover of The Week. The first one is the headline, "At War with a Virus. America shuts down as cases mount amid a shortage of tests." And from the business section, "Devastation for the economy." Okay, if like me you feel a rising sense of emotion around hearing those topics, I feel like I'm not alone. If you have feelings around this, please leave me comments below. So again, I know I'm not the only one, and I suspect that I'm not. When we have these feelings that come up as a result of things we see and hear, let's just say in the media today, we need to understand that those words that I just read and your emotions are two separate things. But those words are designed to reach over and grab your emotions and pull you that way so that you will read and ultimately buy a magazine like The Week. So what I'd like to do is offer some breathing and EFT techniques, and if you've been watching my videos, you are already familiar with EFT, which is Emotional Freedom Technique, also referred to as tapping. If you have not been familiarized with EFT, basically we're using a pressure points around the body and tapping on them in order to relax ourselves. So today we're just going to use one point. There are hundreds on your body, but there's one that we'll use that's easy to work with. It's right here on the heel of either hand, and it's called the karate chop point. And I want you to just tap your fingers on either side. It doesn't matter how many taps you do, how hard, how many fingers, it doesn't make any difference, or which hand. And I want you to name some of the emotions that come up for you when you hear headlines like the ones I just read. So I'm going to work with the headline, the devastation to the economy. And I'm going to use my emotions, but I want you to say your emotions. And if you're a mixed company and you don't want to say them, just say them in your head, but really go there and feel your feelings around them. So when I read that headline, I feel anxious, fearful, a little angry, a little hopeless, certainly frightened, and I feel like I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what we're going to do. Okay, now stop tapping and take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Now we're going to tap again, just like before. Now we're going to say something different. It goes like this: even though I feel, and then name your feelings. So I feel anxious, angry, upset, worried, a little hopeless. I don't know what we're going to do as a country or myself. Even though I feel these feelings, I'm choosing to love and accept myself anyways. Even though I feel these feelings, I'm choosing to love and accept myself anyways. Stop tapping, and another deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Now you might be thinking, that's a little corny. I choose to love and accept myself anyway. But the truth is, what we're doing is calling our emotions back to us. They belong to us, and we want to work with them, and we do love and accept ourselves. We do matter. We are capable, and we do have what we need to get through this, and we are going to be okay. So why wouldn't we choose to love and accept ourselves anyway? We should. Because as you know, I believe in you, and you've gotten through everything that's ever happened in your life up to this point, which means you're capable, and all the way along the line, you have chosen yourself. And it's beautiful. I would like to offer you another option too. When we read something that's frightening, like those, I'm characterizing those as frightening. You may feel differently. When we read something that brings our emotions up, such as those headlines that I just read you, we can also balance our mind by reading something that makes us feel better. So I'm going to share with you two pieces of feel-good news that I have to share. One is, I got a little present today in the mail from my friend Chris. He sent me a Mr. Rogers bobblehead doll, which I thought was fantastic. And he sent me a little note to go with it. And so I'll read you his note. And this is just going to balance off how I was feeling before when I read those headlines. Here's a nice thing. Knowing that we can be loved exactly as we are gives us all the best opportunity for growing into the healthiest of people. Thank you for all that you do, Chris. How great is that? So that's balancing my feelings, and I really enjoy receiving that from my friend. Thank you, Chris. Another option would be to read a book that is a book that makes you feel okay about yourself. And this is a practice, very much like meditation. This is a choice and a practice. This is a conscious action. So we don't let ourselves spiral around the drain of worry. This book that I'm choosing is The Good Neighbor by Fred Rogers, since we're on the theme of Fred Rogers today. And as you know, Fred Rogers is Mr. Rogers from TV. I'm going to read you a snippet from Fred Rogers' book, and this is about a guest that he had on his show. The guest came on first when he was 5 years old on the eve of a major surgery, and then he came back for another appearance when he was 10. In 1975, Jeffrey Erlinger, a 5-year-old boy from Madison, Wisconsin, confined to a wheelchair, asked his parents, Howard and Pam, if he could meet Mr. Rogers rather than going to Disneyland. It was the family's own version of a Make-A-Wish, proposed on the eve of major surgery to fuse Jeff's spine. When asked in an interview why Jeff chose Fred Rogers, Howard and Pam explained that their son always said that Mr. Rogers told him that he was special and that he was just fine the way he was, and it gave him confidence and it made him feel good. Years later, he came back to the show. Before the show, Mr. Rogers took Jeff aside and just gave him a couple of words of advice. Jeff, I'm just going to ask you some questions and then we'll sing a song together. He did say, remember, we're talking to very young children, so don't use any words that are too big. Jeff Erlinger didn't quite heed Mr. Rogers' words. In one of the neighborhood's most memorable broadcasts in 1981, Mr. Rogers asks Jeff straightforwardly about the mechanics of his wheelchair and how he wound up in it. The young boy explains his medical condition resulting from a spinal tumor in sophisticated detail, including even his urinary functions. Mr. Rogers listens intently and says simply, "Your parents must be very proud of you." This was the zen of Fred Rogers' radical acceptance. There was no topic he wouldn't address. Fred Rogers. So I'm encouraging you to be your own Mr. Rogers and make good choices around what you watch and what you listen to and what you read, so that you can experience balance in your emotions, so that we can all feel okay about ourselves. And just remember that we are capable and able, and we'll get through this together. So I'll leave you with our mantra, and that is, we may not be able to control what's going on around us, but we can always control our response. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.